look coming up here at those factors involved. But was anyone else thinking waffles when they saw that? I've been thinking about waffles all morning.
First of all, I'm hungry. But yes, every time I see that graphic, waffles.
Waffles.
Just need a little syrup.
Or hot dogs. Shall we go there? That's another discussion.
That will derail.
Definitely waffles.
Sorry,
but actually, thunderstorms this morning here is what we're looking at first in the Midwest here. So it's been 2 rounds. First round came through, kind of weakened. Second round, it's getting a little more feisty.
Yeah, I mean, we got a severe thunderstorm watch that's in place out there until the noon hour. That's one batch, and there's going to be more developing behind this batch that comes in.
So yesterday morning at this time, we saw thunderstorms right about here, and they eventually moved into North Georgia, producing the damage that we saw. The question is, will these do some of the similar things? Maybe not. We'll see about that. But there's more here. Along with the storms and the rain, we have some flooding threat still continuing. Not good news for places in Vermont that were hard hit by flash flooding yesterday morning.
Oh, boy, what a mess here. The power of this water, this all happened so quickly. Thunderstorms dropped a couple of inches of rain, anywhere from 3 or 4 to 8 in just a couple of hours, and big torrents of mud and water moved everything.
Just a mess. And you got to think, this is some of the same areas that have been hit in recent months from this. So just earlier this month, we had Barrow dump a lot of rain. So it has been a tough situation with the flooding here across parts of New England.
Yeah. Now, you know, one spot that we sort of like to get, we track the storms at the moment that are moving through central parts of Illinois. One in particular, this leading edge, does have the risk of severe weather with it. Winds of 60 miles per hour or greater. That's the main threat. You can see a lot of lightning coming through with these storms from Peoria down to Springfield. Again, this leading edge is where we could see some of the stronger winds. There was a severe thunderstorm warning for it. That's expired, but still tracking, again, that potential for some stronger winds, maybe not at 60, but perhaps over 40 miles per hour. Greg Postel was talking about, he went out yesterday measuring some storms and the winds that they had in the south. And all the storms kind of have that same MO that at least you're probably going to get 30 or 40 mile per hour winds with the stronger ones. A severe thunderstorm watch is out there for that potential of severe weather. If the weather is occurring or imminent, then you'll get a warning. So this, of course, includes Springfield. We're just talking about you, but also towards Champaign and then over towards Terre Haute, Indiana. We've got that risk of thunderstorms. This is just the first round of storms for today. Get ready. Later on, we will see a new round of thunderstorms going back to South Dakota, into Nebraska, Sioux Falls to Omaha, moving into Iowa. That risk of storms, and those will continue to roll over our ridge, the ridge riders heading to the south and east as we get later into the night. So the pattern has not changed. We still have the big ridge of high pressure. We got the jet stream energy to the north and that old stationary boundary out there that continues to be a focus. Scattered showers with thunderstorms that could bring very strong winds. That's the biggest threat, and we have that here with winds in excess of 75 miles or greater, especially right there where everything's coming together into southwestern Minnesota, western Iowa. Also, that zone just to the west of there could see some larger hail. We do have a system kind of dropping down from Canada, and that will help give us the risk of some taller thunderstorms that may bring that hail risk. So we'll look at what's happening right now, and it's kind of a little slow with what's going on at the moment. But so, you know, I think these will be farther east at this point. But then let's keep an eye on what goes on here from South Dakota and Nebraska. These thunderstorms, which start through the afternoon, continue into the evening, and then actually will continue into the overnight as well, perhaps bringing that strong damaging wind threat through Cedar Rapids. This is midnight tonight, and we'll track this continuing to move east and a little bit southeast as we get through the overnight hours. No storms are sleeping these days, Alex. They're up all night.
Absolutely.
It could be heavy at times, just a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. This is what has fallen over the past week, and you can really pick out the storm track when you see the rain totals, because there was a lot of repeats from Iowa through Illinois down through Tennessee and Georgia and South Carolina. But we also saw some spots with some heavier rain in the northeast, and this next push is going to bring more rain back into that area. Mainly, the storm track is about what we've seen, maybe lifting a little north. So we've got that 1 to 2 inch rainfall from Minnesota through Chicago and to Ohio. But you'll see some spots up here in the northeast that do get into 1 inch or 2 inches plus, and locally heavier amounts are possible. Because by the end of the week, we're going to see a bit of a change in the pattern where we get a dip in the jet stream over the eastern half of the country. And so instead of just all these ridge rider thunderstorms, there's going to be an area front, an area of low pressure, and we'll start to see, I think, more widespread showers and storms. They could bring some isolated flash flooding. There's just so much moisture potential in the atmosphere that honestly any of these could bring some bigger rainfall rates. And we'll watch that threat here in the coming days through parts of the Midwest, tracking east as we get into the next few days. So these are the totals. This is what we're still cleaning up from in Vermont. St. Johnsbury, 8.41 inches. East Burke, more than 5 inches. Morgan, Vermont, more than 5 inches as well. It was a localized area up here, but it really made some big impacts. And sometimes you get the impacts, not just where it's raining, but downstream where that water is moving through the topography. Flood watches are up for today because of the additional rain coming in. We see that in northern Vermont and New Hampshire a little bit too. Possible flash flooding tomorrow through Friday, watching Indiana into Ohio. And then we get you through again, watching that forecast today, rain coming into the Northeast. There's our next round that comes in Thursday. And we'll see that by Friday and into the weekend shift into the rest of the North and East. Alex.
Well, you know, hot.
Well, you've got tickets to the biggest
Not
concert.
happening. Concert? Absolutely not.
No.
No, I'll just listen to your song on my I was gonna say CD player, but
Tape recorder, Alex. Keep those comments coming. We'll share them on the show. You can send us them on social media. Pristine, that's for sure. So here's where the latest fire situation is, where the fires are burning across the West. We've got 271 active fires. You can see a lot from the Northwest, but now really getting more active into parts of Southern California and Colorado. We just had a couple of recent fires starting, 3 yesterday, that unfortunately are creating, of course, the fire threat as well as the smoke threat. The Park Fire, 18% contained. It's now burned more than 389,000 acres. It is the top 5 largest fire in California history. And a lot of people who were impacted by the Camp Fire may have moved to the area that is now impacted by the Park Fire. So, you know, a lot of sort of PTSD that folks are dealing with the impacts of both fires. Right now, acreage burned is up over 4 million. Now, last year was a really slow fire year, but you look at where we are, really creeping up to 2022, which was a bad year. Certainly, it's one of the worst in recent memory, though, this year, when you look back compared to 2020 and before that. No rain in the forecast, as expected. This is not the season to get a lot of rain. We were lucky to get a little rain in the Northwest yesterday or the day before, but now it's dry. And now, of course, the air quality continues to be a concern with air quality alerts that are up across interior Oregon, spots in Washington, Idaho, Boise. We've had some tough issues out there. And a dense smoke advisory in a few spots in Northern California stretching into Nevada. Northern Nevada and then all the way over into even Utah, seeing at least your skies getting affected by this smoke. Here's a look at that smoke. You can see how it stretches right into the Salt Lake City area. We're seeing the smoke move across parts of Wyoming as well, and then into North Dakota. This may not necessarily be all the way down, really affecting a lot of you with breathing. It may for some, but at the very least, you are noticing your skies that are going to see that milky, sort of a hazy view out there because of the smoke. And in the forecast, you got to keep watch too in the Denver area. The fire, the Quarry Fire, which is just south and west of town, that one we'll have to see. As long as the winds are from the north, that'll help keep that smoke away. But as they change direction, that could bring the smoke into our area. So, you know, don't forget some of the things you can do, which is use your masks if you're outside here to help with the smoke. Alex.
Well, the tropics, they are starting to bubble up.
Welcome back into America's Morning Headquarters. It's another stormy morning out here, and we've got millions along the northern tier facing storms rushing across the region.
Yeah, we do. Thunderstorms going to spark here over parts of the plains and the Midwest, heading through the afternoon tonight, and then again for tomorrow. Folks across parts of the East Coast, too, getting involved in some of this stormy weather.
Yeah, all right. So let's take a look at where the Southeast could be on alert. We've got tropical issues potentially out there with, got to keep a close eye on what's going on with our tropical wave. Still has a 60% chance of developing into a tropical depression. Perhaps the timing is this weekend. It is finally seeing some showers with it, so it's a change from yesterday.
Yeah, we've certainly been watching that dry air being one of the impediments here to this thing, but maybe that's starting to change a bit now. Let's get over right to Dr. Greg Postel for the latest on this system.
Yeah, it's trying. I mean, I do want to.
Not that bad.
They don't seem to be, right? Oh, my goodness. All right, well, we've been tracking against some of these storms, still following that right now. You can see crossing through parts of Illinois. You can see the expansive zone of the threat for severe weather for the day. We're going to extend that all the way down into parts of Tennessee, Carolinas, and then back into the middle of the country as well.
And then we reset again later today with more thunderstorms. So as is been typical, we're going to track the overnight storms, see how much much they hold together. We still have thunder and lightning out there, and so certainly still a threat. The wind threat isn't as strong as it was with these thunderstorms just about, even an hour ago.
Yeah, now we do have a watch in effect here for us still until about 9 o'clock Central Time, so for about another almost half an hour or so there. But overall, you can see what we'll find as we see the storms reinvigorate back towards the west. The threat for some hail, some of that could be large, and more damaging winds as well.
They could be strong winds in excess of 75 miles per hour. So we're talking hurricane force winds potentially. The storms track one batch, and then the next batch moves in late afternoon and evening.
Yeah, that's the next batch coming in tonight. Right back across portions of Iowa, back into Illinois, and we'll be watching again tomorrow morning. More storms from what develops today.
We also have to keep an eye on that potential for some air travel delays. So far, so good this morning. San Francisco, some low clouds in the area, looking at some delays. The thunderstorms that we've been tracking through the Midwest have kind of been in between the major hubs, so that's been good so far. And overall, the southeastern and northeastern hubs are fine for now. Will they stay that way? Well, we do have some thunderstorm chances. Newark, it's been a tough week every day. So with thunderstorms in the area, I'm worried today that again, you'll run into some delays once we get through the afternoon. The Atlanta area could see thunderstorms. Orlando could see thunderstorms. Some busy hubs in the southeast could be looking at some travel issues through the afternoon hours. Then we go to our next round of severe weather that is likely later into the afternoon through the evening. We're going to see interstates like 29 and 90 and 80 all be impacted by thunderstorms, potentially going severe. I-35 too. Strong damaging winds is the main threat. These are the kind of storms you don't want to get caught up driving in because they really are going to be nasty with some big heavy downpours too. Now, starting off though with a quiet day. It's going to be a hot day, but at least it's not going to be a stormy day. It's through the later afternoon, the evening rush that Omaha, we get these storms move in and then continuing into the evening hours. So travel in the first part of the day up there is better. Southeast, travel the first part of the day is better as well, but we do have showers and storms that will be isolated in nature. Not everybody will be getting them, but you've got that chance for the big heavy downpours that come with it. Then tomorrow, you notice the storm track is pretty similar. You can see it popping with where we're going to see that risk of delays at the airports. The Minneapolis airport, Chicago, both airports at O'Hare and Midway. There could be some delays as thunderstorms get right over the terminal, and even in the airspace, there could be some extra flying time needed as we continue to watch that risk of storms moving on into Florida. A chance of scattered showers and storms means a chance of delays. Often this time of year, it's best to get the early flights that give you the best chance of not getting delayed. So that's what we're watching when it comes to travel. And
What is that?
The sun's been active.
It has. Remember that last one? I don't know if it was the last one, but the last big one where we saw it way back. It was like into the south.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Yeah, and that's what everyone's hopeful for, right? So if there happens to be a good sky show tonight, of course, you want to have low clouds. And I'd say overall pretty good when you think about how far south that aurora may actually reach. Most of you good except for the northeast.
Yeah,
pretty cloudy.
I have to say, overall, a good, decent chance.
Yeah.
Good
kind of
chance.
after about 10 o'clock, between 10 and 2, kind of the peak viewing times. And depending on where you are, you might, if you're farther south, you might need to look lower on the horizon.
There you go. All right. Well, fingers crossed. Well,
Right now, moving through Quincy. We're tracking Galesburg earlier. You can see where the storms are right now on the move. Now, they're weakened a little bit, so we don't have quite the amount of severe wind threat that we did just a bit ago. But there's still some concerns. And the leading edge is where we see most of the thunder and lightning and probably see those gustiest winds that will be coming through just to the south of Kankakee, now coming through Champaign and Urbana. And you can see in Peoria. Now, we're just in the plain old rain behind all of that worse weather, but it is still raining. The longer you keep the rain around, though, and the clouds, it'll help keep our temperatures down. So I think that's a little side bonus that you might get out of this. Otherwise, it's the risk of some gusty winds that is your main concern. And winds may be in excess of 60 miles per hour. If we get some severe thunderstorm warnings, that would be the threat. This is the watch area. Watch means that conditions are possible. When you get a warning, that means that we're more likely to see that severe risk. And today, I think we'll get some warnings, especially later on today. Got to watch an area from South Dakota into Nebraska, then moving into Minnesota and Iowa, where thunderstorms will fire up through the afternoon and evening. And that'll be our next big cluster of storms, or MCS, Mesothelial Convective System, that we're going to have to watch. It's all around this big ridge of high pressure. The ridge riders, the jet stream energy is at play here to help trigger some of the stronger storms. We could see some pretty strong winds in excess of 75 miles per hour with some of the worst storms, maybe that leading edge of storms that get going later tonight or even late afternoon, but into this evening, especially across Minnesota, southward into Iowa. Now, we do have our existing cluster of storms that now we're going to watch on the move. We'll see how much of that holds together. We'll keep an eye on that, though, because sort of the DNA may spark some new showers and storms by this evening, watching into northern Kentucky and points south of there. But at the same time, we've got the new thunderstorms firing up across Minnesota into Iowa, heading east. You see that bowing line of thunderstorms here. That would indicate some strong wind potential coming through Cedar Rapids. This is about midnight, Alex. So these storms are going strong all night long here. Nobody's sleeping tonight.
Yeah, going to be tough, no doubt.
Last month, too, across a lot of the southeast. And you can see, actually, the storm track when you just look at the rainfall totals. Picking out, your eyes go to the oranges and yellows. That's the corridor storms that have been tracking in almost the same areas. But of course, paying close attention to the northeast as well, because northern Vermont and New Hampshire, we had some really heavy storms just yesterday. Now, 1 to 2 inches of rain in the forecast, and a very similar storm track like we've seen, especially though through Indiana and Ohio, and maybe dropping down into Kentucky as well. Once we get through the rest of the week, the pattern changes a little bit. Instead of the stationary front and the flat jet stream that we've seen, we're going to see a dip in the jet stream. There's going to be a large-scale system moving through with that, and so that will help focus in on showers and storms a little more than the isolated and scattered nature that we've seen. We're likely to see some heavy rain with all of these. Flash flooding is going to be a possibility. We'll start with the storms that fire up from Minnesota into Iowa, dropping through Illinois and Indiana. Heavy rain is possible with these. I know it's a large, broad-brushed area, but honestly, there's just that chance with any of these thunderstorms. If they get stuck and they drop these big rainfall rates, like we saw into Vermont the other day, they could cause flash flooding. We had 8 inches of rain plus in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, and it came in just a couple of hours. That plus the topography and the fact that we've been saturated. They're still cleaning up here from the flooding that they had from the remnants of Beryl just a few weeks ago. And now we've got more rain in the forecast. Flood watches are up for that. The possibility of flash flooding tomorrow to Friday is going to be in parts of Indiana and Ohio, but we'll watch all of this move into the northeast again as we get into the end of the week and the weekend. So more rain does come back, Alex.
All right. Yeah, it's tough. Anything 80 dew points, I mean, that's well beyond my threshold. I'm more in the 60s, to be honest. But yeah, it can be tough out there. So we understand saying no to the outdoor events when it gets too sticky out there. Well, don't forget to send those comments to us by way of social media. If you have pictures, share them with us. Use the hashtag YesTV. Well, dry air, fire.
And the number of fires, the areas that have burned, we've got 271 active fires right now across the West. You can see a lot in Washington and Oregon and Idaho. The smoke from some of these bigger fires in California affecting us all over parts of the West, even spots not even dealing with active fires right now. And that's extending into the Midwest, and even spots in the Northeast have seen some of that smoke extend at times, affecting your sky. The Park Fire, 18% contained. They've made some progress. I mean, but it's been tough. It's been a hard fire to fight. More than 389, the 100,000 acres have been burned. And again, with only 18% containment, the concern remains high. This has been a tough year, especially compared to last year, which was actually a really slow fire year. You go back to 2022, we're still behind that in acres burned. But this year is greater than 2021 and 2020 in terms of this part of the season to date. And we know that, traditionally, this is now getting into the most active part of the season as we get into the late summer, early fall. No rain in the forecast as expected. We're not expecting much this time of year. So what you hope for is just maybe some higher relative humidity, especially in the overnights. Calmer winds can help. The air quality has been a concern with air quality alerts up across interior Washington and Oregon and Idaho. Dense smoke advisories down here in California near the Park Fire and extending over into Nevada as well here. And we'll have to keep an eye on the Denver area today too, Alex, for that risk of smoke.
Absolutely. We know.
Welcome back into America's Morning Headquarters. It's been a stormy morning for millions across the northern tier as storms rushed across the region.
Yeah, thunderstorms. We're going to be seeing that getting sparked here across the plains in the Midwest for the day. And then again for tomorrow, we've got some areas to watch as well, trying to make its way towards the East Coast.
Plus, the southeast could be on alert for tropical weather. We are keeping a close eye on a tropical wave in the Atlantic that could possibly become a tropical depression by this weekend. This area to watch has a 60% chance of developing, but not where it is right now. But we're getting close to the zone where we have potential development.
Yeah, that's right. So let's get to Dr. Postel to focus in on where this thing may be headed and the prospects of it developing here as we head through the next few days.
Alex and Jen.
A lot about weather. Like, what did people think when they saw these kind of storms coming? coming.
There's so many things we could talk about that,
I
like
know.
back in the day when they saw this or that. I mean, yeah. Thank goodness we now know what's going on.
Yeah.
All right, well, what's going on today? More storms, and we've been tracking some of that activity here across now at this hour across portions of Illinois. This was a batch that was earlier, so they're just coming down the pike here, basically one after the other, rolling along basically the same locations.
The MCS Express, I love it. The National Weather Service in Springfield wrote about that in their discussion this morning. MCS is Mesoscale Convective System. It's a big cluster of thunderstorms, and we're on it. I mean, here we go.
Springfield, getting ready to see more storms impact you there. This is a zone that's under a severe thunderstorm watch here until the noon hour. And again, the main threat is going to be some damaging wind gusts that could be in excess of 60 miles per hour.
Yeah, so once we get into later today and tonight, we'll watch for a renewed threat of storms. This in advance of, we've got some jet stream energy at play here, so we could see some pretty fierce winds. This is on the top end of the ridge, too. And that corridor of instability right on the edge of the ridge can really feed into some intense thunderstorms.
Well, we've seen that this summer already, right? And we've got that threat again. So the batch in Illinois, you can see how that will work its way off towards the east a bit. And then back there into the plains, that's where the renewed risk for storms gets going later on this afternoon. And all that works its way towards these. Heads up Minneapolis. Could see some big storms there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the model, but it was almost like two big clusters of storms congeal into one. And that could create some intense winds. Maybe Chicago tomorrow morning. If you've got that first flight of the day, you want to pay attention.
Ooh, for sure. And it'll be in some tough conditions, especially where there are some of those heat alerts.
It's a lot of spots, from football to soccer to cross-country running. This is the time of year when heat-related illnesses can take a toll. Dr. Jessica Murphy studies, no doubt you're looking ahead to the weekend if you have any interest there in the southeast, if you're going to be doing some traveling. You're watching that tropical forecast. I'm watching the thunderstorms out there today, which could create some delays. We have a few right now watching Seattle and San Francisco. The low clouds are the problem. The thunderstorms that we've had all been in between the major hubs. So far, so good there. But that may not last. Chicago, I think even overnight, late tonight, we really have a chance of some storms. So tomorrow morning, early flights could be affected. Chicago, Minneapolis, later on this evening, the chance for storms coming in. And keeping an eye on the Northeast. We've got scattered showers and storms. Newark, it has been a tough week with delays every single day with storms in the airspace. So we'll keep an eye on that airport again today. On the roads, now we've had rain this morning in part to central Illinois. After that, there'll be a break, but then more comes back. And we're really highlighting what's going to go on for you here. I-29, Interstate 90, 80, 35. All will see severe weather risks with some pretty nasty thunderstorms, but it's after lunchtime. Your first half of the day is fine for travel. Once we get into the later hours, that's when things start to move in. And Alex, that's when we start to run the risk of some big travel issues. You know, the storms could have some really strong winds, but also some really heavy rainfall, which is always tough for driving.
Absolutely cannot sleep on the threat for the heavy rain. Of course, you know, just a normal sunny day, things get nasty in the afternoon for the rush.
Right.
You add in the rain and storms, not a fun situation. Well, you know, normally we talk about severe storms or flood watches being extended, but the Space Weather Prediction Center, they've actually extended an alert for geomagnetic storm here, and that is what allows auroras like this one seen here from the view of the ISS.
The next round could be visible as far south, maybe as the northeastern U.S., the upper Midwest, the Pacific Northwest, through tomorrow. So we want to take a look at the sky cover to give you see who's got the best chance. I mean, looking pretty good across a lot of the north, except for the northeast.
Yeah, it might be a little difficult there, but you know, you never know. And maybe things clear out a bit. You never know. But right now, I'd say majority have a decent view of the sky.
Most of the time between about 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That's the time frame you want to look. And the further south you are, you kind of want to look lower on the horizon for that. Is this going to be one that you get all the way to the deep south? We'll
Probably
see.
not, but man, that was epic back there a few months ago, right?
Forecasters are definitely, there's hardly any shade.
And at that point, you're not even enjoying the event.
It was, and the water was so essential, really essential.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you go. Well, send us your comments as well on social media. If you have pictures, maybe you were at the NASCAR event sweating it out, send it to us using that hashtag YesTV.
I'll have to look for my picture.
Oh.